call hair juice. Safety is really,
Yeah.
I don't want it.
I don't want it.
I don't want it. I mean, anybody really can book travel.
So hello, today we have Jenita with us. And Jenita has been, how long, you've been here for 2 years?
2 years, it'll be 3 in September.
So when it comes to Merida, Jenita is also one of the people I talk to for just experience, where to go, like this amazing restaurant. Jenita is a single mom of 3. You've been traveling kind of a while, like not just in Merida, but just...
Yeah, I love traveling. Like my term for myself is traveler. Now, I don't like being thought of as a tourist, you know? It's a win for me if someone thinks I'm from a place. Like I was in Paris and someone was asking me directions. I'm like,
blending right in. So I use the term slow traveler. I sometimes think when I say traveler, people are like, oh, where have you gone? Or the 20 different places you went last year. And I'm like, I've been in one place last year, minus my visa run, because I stay in a place for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I'm not a slow traveler. I'm more quality over quantity. So I know like there's these groups, 100 countries, and that I don't really care about. Like for me, it's the quality of the travel, and if the travel like feeds something in me, or if it changes me in some kind of way, like that matters more to me than like the number of stamps. You can go there and like take all these great pictures, but have you really experienced it? So for me, I call myself a traveler because I really like to sit and kind of soak a place and get a feel for it, even if I'm there a weekend. One of my favorite things to do is just to observe. When I was in Paris, like my favorite part was meandering through streets, sitting at the park, kind of watching how people were interacting.
People watching,
even here, my very first trip, what I loved, I sat in this park right over here in Garcia Jimenez and watched life happen around me. And I think you get a real good feel of a place just by sitting,
just by watching, and just by doing normal everyday stuff, like going to the the market, going to the store to buy whatever you gotta buy, going to the library and seeing what they've got. That's one of the things I like about Mexico, is because I feel like if I'm late to an appointment, they're okay with it, like whoever I've got the appointment with. And then vice versa, when they're late, I'm no longer, the American in me will get like, you said 10 o'clock.
You said 10.
Where,
it's 10:02.
Where, and I was early, so, and their response, it's to smile and be polite, but in their head, they're like, girl, we didn't tell you to be early. We didn't tell you to come in 15 minutes early. You're not in the military anymore. Relax.
Or corporate days, on time is late.
Yes.
Yeah.
This thing called life is what the locals like to do, and it's fascinating. I highly recommend it. But the slow traveling and the sitting there and observing helps.
Yeah.
When you realize, oh, they're not getting upset. Same for going to restaurants, and then if you're too loud or your kid's too loud, you're not seeing the locals like, ugh, I wish they wouldn't have brought their kids here, or I wish they wouldn't have, like that feeling is gone.
You know, it's funny because as you were saying that, it made me think of Hawaii. And that was probably the first place I remember I was at, like the DMV, and I'm like, American. Well, it's the United States, but different.
Yes.
And the guy's like, no worries, no hurries. We just talk stories.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm hurrying, like I'm worried. But here, it's that same sort of like, no worries, no hurries,
Yes.
And that whole family feel.
Yes.
And I think maybe that might be part of why I love Merida, is it reminds me a lot of like that, the culture there in Hawaii too. Very familial, very like respectful of elders and family and
people,
tradition. Yeah.
Of people being allowed to be people and have multifaceted.
Right. But no worries, no hurries.
And do you think you'll make Merida your base for a while?
It's feeling like that, like
because you're not a resident.
I'm actually a temporary resident.
Are you? Okay.
Yes, I just got my temporary residency in January, and so my boys will do the family unification. So I'm working on that part.
Okay.
Like right now, what I'm feeling is life after kids. So I have an LAK plan, life after kids plan.
Yeah.
I have teenagers, so
is
it's
that
time
a thing?
to start. Well, see,
I'll Google it later.
Technically, it's not. They'll still be there. They'll still be there, but So one of the things I'm thinking about is purchasing a condo here for later, because I love Merida and I love Mexico, and I feel like the quality of life you get here, and I know I speak from a place of privilege.
Yeah.
I know it's different, but as an immigrant, I guess as an expat, the quality of life that I can have here is not comparable, in a lot of places, because I think about people are talking about moving to Portugal, the cost of it, right?
Yeah.
And then like, can I get like a housekeeper coming in? Can I get someone to cook for me? Can I get a gardener? I'm loving my life here.
Yeah.
And so that's something to consider. So yeah, so I do plan on purchasing a condo. I don't want the responsibility of a house.
Right. Something
Like,
smaller. Yeah.
It's something about me being a single mom. Like, I owned a home in Tennessee. I don't
want to own a home ever again.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to sell it. I don't want to have to maintain it. I don't want to have to rent it. And I had people that helped me with it, but it's still a lot to deal with, even with people who are helping you do all that management.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't want it.
I don't want it.
I don't want it.
And I'm loving my studio apartment life. Alex wants his own room. That's a thing. But for now, we're okay.
Yeah.
So I might one day change to get an actual bedroom for the boys. But I like it because it's easy to maintain.
It.
Because you've been here forever, is this your favorite restaurant? Or what would you say your favorite restaurant is?
Oh, don't ask me favorites. It's hard for me to give one favorite. It depends on the day and my mood. So I love coming here to sit and work because it's like we're sitting in a garden.
In nature with, it's so beautiful.
And they don't rush you, they just leave you alone. Oh, the Cafe Creme.
Okay, I've never been there either.
Because in another life, I think I was French. I don't know, Gigi, I think I was French. And Cafe Creme, they have like a little courtyard.
Okay.
And I go there and I get my cheese tabla and my meat tabla, and I get garif. What do you call the thing?
The large pitcher thing.
Yeah, but it's like not a whole bottle, but it's like 2 glasses. So I'll get my rosé and I'll sit there and I'll work, and they have the jazz music playing. So I just love Cafe Creme is another favorite.
Putting that on my list of places to go. This is why I do interviews for real. It's not even about you. I like to ask the questions and learn where to go.
And Volta.
I've never been. Everyone talks about Volta.
So I like Volta because right next door is Between the Lines. It's a bookstore with books in English.
I keep meaning to go there too. Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I miss books until I walked into Between the Lines, and I was like, oh my God.
And a physical book. That's true. I've been doing a lot of audio.
Yeah, which is good, but there's something about
reading it and holding it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's right. They share a door.
Nice.
And then Volta Cafe has happy hour. So
I've been meaning to try mezcal.
It's a good place, and they have indoor seating and a courtyard. So if you want that outdoor, those are probably 3 of my favorites. This one, Volta, and Cafe Creme.
I'm liking all of it.
Yeah.
And again, new places for me to go. And then where is your favorite place, or do you have a favorite for getting your hair done? Because I'm seeing, by the way, you look fabulous.
Thank you.
Yes.
Actually, there's a woman here. She's from Honduras, and she braids my hair for me.
Okay.
So she's been awesome. So
I do not generally get my hair braided, but I need to get my hair cut, and I need to figure out where I want. And there's so many places, obviously, and I just need to test out.
For me, it's a little harder with African American. Well, I guess with African hair,
Yeah.
But it's a little tougher because not everyone knows how.
I've been hearing this.
Yeah.
I've been hearing this. So, and then having certain products available to do it as well.
Yeah. Well, I when I knew that I would be traveling for a long time, I actually started working on what I call hair juice, and so that way I wouldn't need any particular product. But all I do, it's 3 parts water, so distilled water, 1 part aloe, and 1 part glycerin, or if that clogs your pores, then some other type of oil.
Okay.
You can find that everywhere, really. And so you mix it up, and I say 1 part, 3 parts, because you just kind of spray it on your hand, and if there's a sheen, you're okay. Because with black hair, there needs to be a moisture and an oil. So the water is the moisture, and then there's the oil, and that really the hair is soft and it's healthy. So that's my hack, okay?
As a traveler, right? Because not everywhere has the same things, or it might take you a while to find it if they do have it. So Jenita is a travel coach. What is a travel coach compared to, let's say, a travel agent? Or are they related?
So it's related. I wear multiple hats. I am a travel advisor. I actually call myself a Travel Curation Specialist.
I like that.
Because I like to curate experiences. I mean, anybody really can book travel, but when I talk to someone, I really think about them. I'll ask them what their vision is, and I create an experience for them. And I don't like picking things that they could pick themselves.
Yeah.
I had someone recently reach out to me about a trip to Dubai, and they're like, oh, we want to stay at the I think the Hotel Indigo, and I'm like, yeah, you can stay at Hotel Indigo everywhere,
Yeah.
And so it was finding something special for them, something that they probably wouldn't have found themselves, but it's such, a luxurious experience there in Dubai. So I'm a travel curation specialist, but then out of that also travel coaching, and that's more so for like solo travelers or people who kind of their first step, stepping out to traveling, and so just talking them through how you do this, how do you approach it, and encouraging them to get out and just try.
Oh, I like that.
There was so many times before we started traveling internationally, take a road trip, go to a different town, right? In your own town.
In your own backyard, there's so much to do. I lived in Virginia for, 4 years, the most recent time, and we went once to DC. And there's so much in DC, but we went once. But instead, we went to like Busch Gardens, and we did go to local parks, but we didn't go and see anything. I blame it on being busy. Right? Because when you're busy, you can't get creative. So there's that.
And I think a lot of times we have this, because one of the first questions, is it safe? Safety is really a facade sometimes. Like, I get, there's common sense to it,
Yes.
But then, we have this, like, it's the same reason people stay in a job. It's safer. Is it? And so part of it is kind of talking through that. Because that can be a big stumbling block for people, especially solo traveling women. That can be a huge block.
And single moms with kids, because we're the only ones, and we have this other life or lives to take care of. So yeah.
And the other like fear, because the whole safety thing is like hostels. People are like, I don't understand the hostels. They're so great.
I've done them as a solo traveler. I did them in Italy in a couple of places, and it was fine. It was fantastic, and there were families there. And some hostels have like family rooms too, to where you don't have to sleep with strangers.
And it's so like that's the part I think is different than staying in a hotel. In a hotel, everyone's sort of there with their own
individual. You're in a box.
Yeah, and people aren't as apt to connect like in the lobbies, and so you may have a conversation with someone. But hostels, they create a sense of community among the traveler, and then they have different events and tours and things. We stayed in the Quisby in New Orleans.
Okay. I was going to ask about hostels in the U.S. actually.
I've stayed in 2 here in the U.S.
Okay.
Well, they're in the U.S. But the Quisby. So I was still in the room, like finishing up, getting ready, and the boys had gone down to the lobby. Well, a concert started in the lobby. There were, I think, some kind of festival. There's always festivals in New Orleans, like the Blues Festival or something. But someone was playing a cello. Yeah. Another was playing, I think, a flute or something. Yeah. And so in the lobby, my kids get to hear this concert.
That was actually part of RV life. There were a decent amount of people who were of the artistic variety and musical variety, and so they would start playing instruments. Yeah. And Alex would be like, "Oh, I play sort of," and so he would participate in that moment. And so I'm like, "Oh, homeschool. #homeschool." We got music class out of the way just because there's random people who are playing instruments together. Yeah.
And it's funny you say that. I've grown to embrace the term world schooling because when I first started, like I was like, unschooling, what the hell is that? And world schooling, But it's really what I love is that we have a combination of homeschool like curriculum and then world schooling like these experiences that
you can't possibly replicate. You can't predict it. You can't replicate it.
And then, in my opinion, it'll stay with them longer. Because one thing that is important to me with my kids is true learning, not memorization, not like preparing for a test, but true learning. And there are studies that say, and I'm like really paraphrasing here, but memories are tied to emotion, right? And so, if in that moment he was excited about being there, there's some deeper emotion tied to that. That's going to stay with him longer than having just read that in a book or prepared for some test. Yes. And that really, when you think about the stuff that stays with you over the course of your life, those are the things.
Yeah, I have every confidence that any class I take ever, I'm going to ace it because I have been trained. Right? Like first the school system and the military system, and like I got you if I need to memorize it. But ask me the question after the test. And ask me the question in an open-ended kind of way and see what comes out.
Yeah.
Because I'll be like, oh.
I love using the Pythagorean theorem, okay? Because years ago, I found my notes from high school, and I found the Pythagorean. I was like, what the hell is this? Right? I'm like, I knew this.
The things we used to know.
I knew this at one point. Like, when would I use this? No, I did. I remember having so much stress about learning it but couldn't tell you to this day, like, what it was for.
Yeah.
So
math is a great example because, again, 4.0 student, I'm good. Teaching Alex math has been a struggle because in my mind, math equals drill. Repeat, until you almost don't know what the heck it is you're repeating. Whereas Alex, I find, and it's been a minute, I don't test him too often, but if I give him a situation, right, that involves math, maybe not even telling him that it does involve math, but just giving him a concept and saying, so what does that mean? Or how do you connect it? Or how would you build it? And watching that happen in his head.
yeah.
And then he might not know the terminology, but he can get it done. Like, he can figure it out. Again, science is like that deeper, that second level, right? You gotta know the math to know the science. But if you just memorize it, you won't be able to create.
Yeah.
You won't be able to.
That's good. And I think that's probably, the purpose of it all, right? Is to take all this learning and
do something.
Yeah, create something or make an imprint some kind of way, right?
Yes. So with all this travel talk, and because we got COVID going on, where can we travel and how do we stay safe in this potentially ever-changing world that we're kind of in?
So therein, that word again, safe. Okay. One thing, like as a travel advisor, I don't tell people, oh, it's safe. I say, people are taking these precautions. These are the precautions in place, right? Because really, safety is a personal thing,
and you're a big part of it.
Yeah. And I don't want to give any guarantees of safety because sometimes things just happen, And I think we can follow everything to the letter. Sometimes things just happen.
Yeah.
So I'm very cautious about giving guarantees of safety.
The definition of safety is different too, because I don't consider my schedule changing. I don't usually consider my schedule changing to be a big deal or a safety related, but there are some people who really rely on, I think, the schedule and the predictability of a situation.
Yeah.
And so to somebody who really wants something that's very stable, a lot of things could be considered unsafe that to a different population will be like, yeah, that's normal.
Yeah.
It's in fact a good thing.
Right.
They might actually appreciate that. So yeah, I think you're right. Safety is such a vague word. Yeah. And then as an example, so Naples, Italy in particular, was considered safe because you are unlikely to meet somebody who's going to murder you, who's going to punch you in the face, who's going to have an altercation with you. But there was a high chance somebody's going to pickpocket you, right? And so what is safety? Is safety of the money staying in your pocket? Is that safety? So yeah. So it's the different forms of safety.
Yeah. So when it comes to traveling right now in this atmosphere, like I said, I don't give guarantees of safety. What I'll say is these hotels have stepped up and they're taking these precautions, right? Or the airlines have these measures in place. And so you take that information and you determine what your comfort level is, right? I'm posting about travel, but I in no way force anyone to some agents are like, how do we get people to travel right now? I'm like, look, if they want to travel, I'm here.
They're gonna find you.
If they don't, I respect it.
Yeah.
I will say it's been hard watching what's happened to a lot of destinations that are very dependent upon tourism dollars. Right or wrong, the fact is a lot of people have suffered hunger, right? Losing their homes because those dollars weren't there. Yeah. So, and I think because of that, that's why you're seeing measures across at least the Caribbean. The Caribbean historically is very dependent upon U.S. travelers.
Yeah.
Well, not just U.S., but U.S. heavy travel to the Caribbean because it's so easy for us.
Yes.
Like Jamaica has done, I think, a fabulous job from my perspective, from a tourist perspective, of putting safety measures in place for their constituents, right? But also still making it a place where you can visit and have a great time.
Yeah.
I've had 3 groups go to Jamaica since the pandemic. Jamaica's done a really good job.
Yeah.
So you take a test before going, and with the U.S.'s new rule, a lot of the resorts now have free testing.
Yes, and the airports as well are helping out. So I think that's, because when I first heard it, I'm like, ugh. And how do I know that they're going to give me the results within 72 hours? How do I know? I didn't have to worry.
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to make sure to cover us.
And insurance is with travel protection, which I always advocate, having lost almost $800 on a booking myself, they're stepping up and changing policies because what people don't know is there's typically a clause called known and frequent. So like, for example, if you travel during hurricane season, you're probably not going to be covered because it's known that it's hurricane season, right? And it's a frequent issue to have hurricanes. Now, I'm not an insurance advisor. I'm just telling you what I know. And so a lot of the insurance companies now are making changes to make it still, I guess, advantageous, or for people to consider traveling. So some of them do cover COVID-related delays. I know that Travel Guard, I think, I might have the company wrong, but they're actually looking at having a housing expense added. So like if you test positive and have to quarantine, that there's a certain level
to
cover.
Help you with
So really important to like look at the travel protection and evaluate it. And you have a right to look at it before you buy it. So if someone's trying to pressure you to a plan, ask for the plan details, call the 800 number, really understand what the coverages are before you purchase. The players that are well known, they cover anywhere, but the things you have to watch for, because there's a clause in the insurance for financial, like if a company goes under, not all companies are covered under your plan. And so you need to know, like if you book through a tour operator, if they go bankrupt, you're still covered. It's things like that, and your plan may cost more depending on the area. So like if you're trying to go to Pakistan, it might cost you more than going to Jamaica. Right. So those are the things, and the other thing that impacts it is your age. So some plans that I sell, like children 17 and under, are free, right? And then others, like when you hit, I want to say like over 40-ish, 45, there's a different price.
Is it cheaper for us that's over 40? It should be.
No.
I'm smarter. I'm not going to make bad decisions.
Well, it's not about that. It's about potential health issues. Because travel protection is more than just if I cancel. It also, there's medical coverage
I need
in
to
there.
stop showing what I eat on camera so I can pretend totally vegan. There's no sugar in this.
Oh my gosh, right. It's all natural.
It's all natural.
And
that makes sense too. I mean, realistically, it does make sense.
The biggest things that impact the cost of travel insurance, the cost of your trip, your age, the plan you choose. Because there's some that are like just the basics. And then there's others that are canceled for any reason, which I always advocate. But you just have to weigh them.
When you say travel insurance, I associate that with like a vacation, like I'm going for a week to a location. I don't have travel insurance. I'm here in Mexico. I've been here a year.
So there's travel protection, which is typically for a trip and then like, because there are travel agent plans and it covers trips up to 90 days. Anything over 90 days, you're living there. So it's like,
Facts.
And that's a whole nother type of coverage.
So that's where you would just need to learn what your normal, maybe medical insurance, health insurance, whether it covers it in the new location.
Because there are ones that cover travelers, like, those of us who travel around the world. And so it's a little different than just a one-trip type of travel protection.
Got it.
So like the plan that I had, it was an annual plan, right? And so it covers you for trips throughout the year.
Nice.
But it doesn't, like I said, the 90-day thing, right? So if I'm here more than 90 days,
it's not considered a trip.
Exactly. Know these things, people.
Know people who know these things so you can ask. It's like part of the reason why I started doing the interview season is because it's one, I don't know everything. So that's just facts. And two, we need to showcase the people we have to know in life. Like I have to know somebody who travels and knows some of the details. I have to know locals who know the area so I can ask this area specific questions. Like I have a wide variety of friends. Some of them can definitely be virtual. They don't necessarily have to be in the country you're going to, but the community matters. It takes a village. It doesn't take a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a mother.
Honey.
Like we all need it. We all need it.
I have a client right now and she's working towards moving to Mexico. And one of the first things I told her was to build your circle. Because, when you, especially, and you may know this from your own experience, when you're talking about doing something that others see as like, whoa, your support may not come from that group. And so you have to venture out a little bit and start building this circle who can help keep you encouraged when things get cloudy or difficult, or kind of leave you some breadcrumbs to follow. So that's really important.
If I were a solo traveler, just because I've traveled my whole life, usually with family or the Navy, like a variety of reasons why I travel. But I was confident in traveling enough to where I would have just gone anywhere. It was adding the element of my son, who needs a community, who needs that connection a little more than myself, which is why I reached out to other communities. But I'll say this, I didn't know I needed a community until I reached out, until I had one, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is not just, I'm not just smiling, meeting people like, oh yeah, I like you, but I really don't. I just like your kids, playing with my kid. No, turns out mom also needs to like you, and it has amplified my life so much more to have connection with people, to include Jenita. So in terms of working with you, who would you say is your ideal client?
Oh, it's funny because everyone says, you know, you are your client.
Yeah.
It's different for me. So my typical clients are couples, or it's adults only groups.
Okay.
Anyone in business knows you have to really fine tune your target. And so what I had to do, because what I started off wanting to work with like single moms, but they don't really book the way that it's different, you know. It's
I would imagine it's much less predictable because you've got so many extra elements with single moms.
And so what I had to do was look at where I actually was getting business and focus in on that.
Yeah.
Right. So I looked at where I was actually getting bookings and the income was coming from.
Because that's who you were naturally attracting, basically.
Yeah.
And so you just hone in on what you're naturally doing.
So that's who was booking. Like at one point I wanted to work with coaches and do retreats. And so I tried to like, you know, talk to that group. But like I said, I stopped and I stepped back and I looked at what was actually going on, and couples and adults only trips. So I do a lot of girls trips, and I love working with couples. Even though I'm single,
right?
I love, like when marriage works, I love it. Like it's so beautiful to me.
It is, yeah.
And so I love being a part of the couple's journey. Like there's one couple, I did their honeymoon, and I love it because I was able to get it last minute in their budget, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
So I worked with them for their honeymoon, a baby moon, and then like a family trip, like after they had
been working with you throughout the years, so you've got this longer relationship.
Yeah. And I love it. And so it's so cool to work with a couple kind of through their evolution.
Yeah.
And my couple that got married in Jamaica last year, they're reaching out to me for an anniversary trip. So I love being a part of those moments.
Lives. Yeah.
Which is very different than my style, because I book a lot of like all-inclusive luxury. And I told you, I'm like, I want to stay like where the locals stay. I stay in a hostel, right? I don't like all-inclusive because I like to go to different restaurants. So it's very different.
Is there anything else you think people need to know, or anything you want to share?
So I've traveled a bit during the pandemic, and I've had other people travel during the pandemic. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of, if you book today, you know, laws and regulations may change tomorrow. You know, and people are, oh, when it's normal, I'll go when it's normal.
I don't know when that's going to be. I hate to say it.
Yeah. But my counsel right now is go with the moment. Go with the flow. If you really want to go somewhere, like if it's like, oh, I really want to go, check into what's required, check into the cost, ask yourself if you're comfortable with that, and then protect yourself by getting travel protection, or like airlines right now, no change fees.
Correct, which I love.
So the industry, and I stay tuned to ASTA, A-S-T-A, and CLIA, C-L-I-A, because those two sort of advocate for the travel industry.
Okay.
And so I stay tuned to those to see what's happening, you know, from a legal perspective across the industry. You have to embrace what is now, and if you really want to travel, do it.
I think it's so funny because before COVID, I would have said the same thing, right? Like, if you want to do it, just do it. What are you waiting for? Why are you letting all these other things stop you? When COVID first started, it was a great excuse. I can't because of COVID. I can't because of COVID. And I think now, especially because we don't know when the end is going to be, or if there's an end. But it's like, if not now, when? Really, if not now, when? So if it's in your heart to go somewhere, find someone, Google it, call Jenita, and see where you can go and how you can go. And
be responsible. Be a responsible traveler. Like I said, there are communities out there where this is how they live. And, you know, understand that when you go, you also carry potential to hurt someone else.
Yes.
And so as much as people, you know, I don't want to wear that, all this stuff, consider the other people that you're impacting. So be a responsible traveler for yourself and for others. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for meeting me. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. My English is great. So my favorite thing about Jenita in particular, aside from she's just all around amazing, is she keeps it real. So if I've got a question, whatever the question might be, however uncomfortable maybe the question feels when I ask it, I know she's going to give me her actual opinion. Whether I want to fully hear it or not, she keeps it real. So she's not going to sugarcoat it.
Indifferent. Hey.
Not going to sugarcoat it. Bring your own sugar and then talk to Jenita.
Have you ever had cafe de olla?
No, what's cafe de olla?
It's the Mexican way of making coffee, but it has canela, cinnamon, and then the traditional, I think, uses a pinocillo,
I don't know what
which
that
is
word
like a natural sweetener. You'll see it in the grocery store. It looks like a cone. It's like brown sugar.
Okay.
They boil the coffee and have that in it. I don't even like cinnamon. I just love it. It's the
Okay.
best thing in the world.
I will try it next time.